Leader in the European Parliament, Timothy Kirkhope. Welcome to you both.
Hi, Andrew.
So our polls there show that you're as divided over Europe as ever.
Well, I don't know. I was actually, when I heard the statistics there, I was reasonably impressed. If this poll had been taken 4 or 5 years ago, I would have thought it probably would have been substantially less in favour of Europe than
But this is not
now.
just in favour or against, this is in or out. 50% of the polls say come out. That's a pretty radical split for any
but I could
party.
go around and I could do a poll on the spot here on a number of issues of policy areas where people would have particular views at a conference. And I think
really?
that's
Such as what?
Well, I mean, talk about things in crime and punishment, this sort of thing. You know, the government has set down a very, very clear position on this, and they fought the election over it. Well, UKIP got 3%, Andrew, calling for us to leave the European Union in the general election.
Position is clear that it doesn't want to leave the European Union.
That's correct.
No, I understand that. John, you want a referendum. But what would the referendum be on?
Well, it'd be a very simple question, as you said yourself, whether we're in or whether we're out. And that was fun. That was a bit of fun, just people putting balls in. But it doesn't really matter what people think here. It's what the public think. And in a scientific poll, no disrespect to yours, YouGov recently did a poll on this. 47%, the overwhelming majority, want out of Europe. Now, our campaign isn't about persuading or telling people which way to vote. We're just saying we've been promised a vote on this 3 times by 3 different leaders. Let's have a referendum.
Promise an in or out vote?
No,
the Tories promise an in or out vote.
No, that's true. But along the lines of, do we go with this treaty, don't we go with this treaty?
But where is
the man in the street?
Where is the public appetite? Where is the evidence that there is a public appetite for an in or out vote?
Where's the evidence that there's a public appetite for a vote in May on AV or constitutional reform? I would hazard a guess there isn't, or you can't point to it. So I think it's the same here. And what we're calling for is to have a robust debate about it, about whether we want to be in or whether we want to be out. And I don't understand why people would be worried about having that simple vote, apart from if you've had a seat there for 11 years.
We had an election very recently in which UKIP, the only party that argued, I think perhaps the BNP did as well, but the UKIP said, in or out of Europe, we wanted 3% of the population.
So why would you be frightened of a referendum then?
What's your problem? You're going to win.
Because we've already indicated, well, the government has already indicated what its policy was, to remain in the European Union. Certainly, of course, if there's any attempt to transfer further powers, we've already made it very clear that we would, of course, have a referendum.
So you go along with the referendum lock, that if there's more...
Absolutely. But what's wrong with that? It's very sensible.
Well, I was about to ask him
the referendum lock is the EU lock is a complete and utter con, because we've already given away those powers in the Lisbon Treaty. David Lidington knows that, David Cameron knows it, and David Cameron...
No, but if there's a transfer of any more powers, the coalition has agreed that there would have to be a referendum.
But
what's wrong with that?
we've already had transfers of power since that's come in, and the lock will not protect us, Andrew, because the Lisbon Treaty allows it to happen.
All right.
We're ceding power every day to Brussels.
What has happened to the Conservative promise that not only would you have a lock on any more powers going to Brussels, but actually you would repatriate powers from Brussels to London? What happened to that promise?
No, it's not a question of dropping it. We have an agreement in the coalition government as to our approach to a lot of the detail here.
So what happened to that bit?
Well, it's not a question of repatriating powers. I think actually
we are
still
promised in the
concerned.
manifesto.
Yeah,
so
but we're part of a
to
coalition agreement, Andrew.
So you've dropped it because of the coalition?
It's not a question of dropping it. What we actually did was to move on.
Did you
agree with it? We moved on in our European policy. As far as I am concerned, I think it's important that the subsidiarity issues, which of course is all to do with powers lying where they ought to lie.
Did you agree with it?
I agree with subsidiarity.
Did you agree with repatriating powers from Brussels to London?
No, I think the word repatriation of powers was never
actually
used.
So you didn't agree with your party's own manifesto?
Not a question of disagreeing with my manifesto of my party. My party is in government, in coalition, doing a positive thing, and in relation to Europe, I think we have a very, very strong and good policy.
See, part of your problem, I would suggest, in achieving what you want to achieve is that nobody really wants to talk about Europe at the moment. No one around this conference is really interested in Europe anymore. That may change. It was certainly not true several years ago when Europe was a burning issue. Now it's not. So I think it's hard for you to get people's attention.
Well, we shall see about that, shan't we? But I would hazard a guess. There might not be people in this... Can I finish? There might be people not in this conference who want to talk about it. There might have been people who didn't want to talk it in the last political conference, Andrew. But I think the British public want to talk about it. I think the British public will get behind a campaign for a yes or no. And I think there is a disconnect between our political elite and people like this gentleman who's had 11 years in Brussels. There's a disconnect. And what are the powers that be? What is wrong with the political political elite that they're so scared of having a referendum and allowing the ordinary man and woman in the street to have
You
their
really
say.
are
What
flogging
is your
history
problem?
here. I mean, it's
Really?
ridiculous nonsense.
Really?
You really are talking ridiculous nonsense. You've got a government in power, strong leadership, a government that is pursuing our interests
You
in
have a
Europe very
coalition
vigorously
power.
indeed, and realises that there are positive benefits of being members of the European Union.
You
lost out in the general election with a lousy result in terms
I'm
of
not
those.
a member of UKIP.
I know,
Hold
but
on
I'm
a
saying
minute.
that the policy
This is
that
not
you
a
pursue
UKIP.
lost out.
This is not a UKIP policy.
Well,
I'm not a member of a political party.
They could get 3%.
You are.
I
It's
don't
not
think-
about UKIP.
Oh.
And if you keep going on about 3%, let's have the referendum then. What are you scared of, apart from losing your cushy job in Brussels?
Oh,
Be
you,
straight with the British public.
I'm in touch with the British
hold on.
public as an
Really?
elected member.
Hello?
Really?
Probably more than you are. I think.
Here I
Really?
am. Here I am. Hello.
Hello.
You must be quite happy with the coalition, really, because it's neutralised
Yes, neutralised
the
its
people
argument.
on the Tory side who feel like Jon Gaunt.
The coalition
Hasn't
is
it?
not there for the purpose of
No,
neutralising
but you must
anybody
be
or
quite
any views
happy.
at all.
I mean, just say yes.
I don't have to
You're-
just say yes
you
because
are,
you say I
yes.
should say yes.
No, I'm just trying to get
course
you
I'm
to
not
give
gonna.
an honest answer to an honest question.
No, as far as I'm concerned, the coalition government is doing a very good job. I'm very proud as a Conservative that we're part of a coalition government where, in fact, a great amount of our policies
This is
that
what's
we've
wrong
been
with British
pursuing
politics.
are in
In a
government
word.
now.
Isn't it a slight puzzle, though, that here you are, you're head of the Tories in the Parliament, I think,
Yeah.
is that right? And yet your attitude to Europe bears no resemblance to 90% of the people at this conference.
You've gone up to 90% now, Andrew.
Yeah, just in general have been pro-Europe as opposed to want to leave.
No, I'm very, very much in favour of us remaining part of the European Union, but fighting our corner, Andrew, as we do day in and day
This
out.
is what
Wasn't
is
the
wrong
que-
with British politics. He's on another planet completely. Absolutely.
All
We
right.
spend too much time in Brussels.
No, I think John and his pals are on the other planet.
Well, we shall
actually.
see, my friend.
I think they're going to continue. I'm just going to leave them to it. Have a cup of tea and hand back to Anita in London. Anita.
Thanks very much, Andrew. I'm still on the same planet, just in case anyone was wondering.